Good afternoon, folks. And it is certainly that time of the week. It is halfway there. Happy Wellness Wednesday, and thank you so much for joining the program this afternoon. My name is Anthony Weeks, and I am the executive producer. I'm also the managing director for SETI Inc. And we have a wonderful program for you this evening. Actually, it's a forum. It's a special televised broadcast. Even though we're live on radio, we're live usually on television. But what's different this time is we're going to hold a forum on a very important topic. We're going to hold a forum on the funding that started back in 2020 under the Stimulus Act, the first set of funds that were released to help local small businesses, and those funds are going to come to an end at the end of March. And so there is the second. It's not really second because it's really it's a continuation from last year, but the $900 million that President Trump had released, that was still part of the first, and that will expire at the end of March. Now, we now have a new president, and the president is about to sign the bill once it's approved by the House of Representatives, an additional $1.9 trillion. So we're talking about a total of $2.8 trillion that's going to be infused into the market to help small businesses. And so today's show is to be able to talk about that. Again, like I said, I am the managing director for SETI. SETI is a macroeconomic and public policy think tank. And we have two units that are pretty much deemed responsible for two very specific areas. One is to deal with the aftermath of, or not aftermath, but particularly what's happening with the COVID-19 pandemic. It was created, Jumpstart Economy was created specifically in response to that. And the marketplace has been a staple, a standard banner, or should I say brand for SETI, as it relates to all things business, markets, consumer, the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so today, I want to introduce to you my colleagues who are going to join us, part of the panel, my distinguished set of panels that are going to talk about pretty much give you a wholesome overview of the program itself, the do's and the don'ts in terms of who's eligible, how you qualify. They change the rules in terms of how you can use the money. So we have a great program lined up for you this afternoon. And my colleague, Terry Coxum, is the former SBA advocate. She served as the SBA advocate under the Obama administration. She was responsible for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And today, for the purpose of today's broadcast, today's forum, she is going to serve as the lead moderator, and myself and my other colleagues are going to support her in our co-moderator role. And we've invited a number of guests to be able to be on the panel, and so we're excited about that. So Terry, with no further ado, let me say welcome to the program, and look forward to your leadership on today's forum special broadcast on the Paycheck Protection Program, better known as PPP, Forgiveness Loan Program.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I'm super excited. Carolyn, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Good to see you, and I'm excited. You look lovely.
Thank you.
Are you wearing black?
I am wearing black.
That's because we're helping companies get into black.
That's right.
I just wanted to make sure. That's it. We have pearls of wisdom, and we're going to help them get into black. So.
Absolutely. We're all on the same page every time. So to those that are listening, we're going to be going over the Paycheck Protection Program, first draw, second draw, what Congress intended the program to be. And we're going to talk to a lot of great panelists. We have some wonderful individuals that are actually in the trenches helping small businesses get the PPP is what it's referred to. And so we'll be talking a lot about that. And so let's get into it. Is it possible? We're waiting on our panelists to get back on, Anthony. And so Linda and Carolyn and I are going to just start talking about the program.
Well, Linda, I see Linda is waiting to get into the studio too. She's just waiting for Anthony to give her to join her in.
Okay, awesome sauce. So we're gonna get Linda into the
Exactly. So we're just waiting for her to join in the show. Anthony, you're bringing Linda in for us.
Her camera is not on. I'm not sure.
Okay.
She's not connected, so I'm not sure she's having some sort of technical issue. But
wonderful.
Yeah.
So
that seems to be the thing of the day, as far as a little bit of technical difficulties going on this morning. But we're going to start talking about P3 as we're trying to get people on and into the studio. On Wednesday, February 24th at 9 a.m., the SBA began the 14-day exclusivity with the PPP. Yesterday, unfortunately, it ended. And that was intended for smaller businesses, less than 20 people, to actually have an opportunity to work with their bankers on getting the payroll protection. Hi, Linda, you made it.
I made it. Yeah.
There's something going on with the volume, but it's okay. You're in, so we'll figure that out.
Okay, great.
Pretty good.
Is that me?
I think so.
I'm going to head back out, and then I'm going to come back in.
Okay. And as Linda's heading out, we want to, in the interest of time, we're going to start talking about the 5 PPP reforms. The first one I just told you about was basically about the exclusivity. So the businesses less than 20 people, they were exclusive. The second part of the revision was for sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, and they will be allowed to use the gross income line, which is really important because, as Carolyn and I know from the first draw, individuals were using net, and net is a lot less than the gross. And so using that gross line gives small businesses a little more money in their pockets to be able to pay payroll. And there's a host of other things that will be included, and we'll talk about them in the program today. Another one was fair access to returning citizens by eliminating the eligibility restrictions that did not allow those with felonies with previous years to apply. However, the restriction on those with arrest or felony convictions related to financial assistance fraud still are not able. But if it wasn't related to financial assistance, which makes sense, right? They'll be able to apply for PP. The PPP, the fourth one in this one was those that were struggling with student loan debt. And as we know, a lot of us are still paying our student loans. And because of COVID, a lot of people lost jobs and income and weren't able to pay as much on their student loans. And so some of them were delinquent. So that is no longer a barrier for small businesses. If they had student loan, they were delinquent in student loans, they still can apply. And the fourth one being clarifying the individual taxpayer identification number can be used for persons that immigrants and small businesses who lawfully reside and pay taxes in the U.S. They can still now apply. Before you had to have a social security number. Now you can use your TIN number. And so those were really important reforms to P3. And hopefully it'll give our small businesses, our immigrant businesses, our businesses that are struggling with student loan debt, an opportunity to absolutely apply for the payroll protection program. The other thing that is really important is that we're able now to offer those loans here in the marketplace. And that's really that's really exciting.
That's the most exciting.
That's really, really exciting. And so if you go into Jumpstart, give us the email, give us the website.
Jumpstart Economy.
Yes. You can do it a couple of ways. You have the SETI Jumpstart website. That's the primary website. That's jumpstarteconomy.us. Again, that's www.jumpstarteconomy.us. And the second site, which is designed to help retool local and small businesses to be more prepared to be in a digital economy, to do business virtually and remotely. And so that site is www.localbiz.store. That's www.localbiz.store.
Awesome.
And can I just say, first of all, I need to ask Anthony, where are your pearls, Anthony? What's going on?
That's what, and Linda, before you came on, I saw Terry, you're wearing black. I said, that's because we are going to be giving pearls of wisdom and helping companies get in the black by being able to access these funds.
I have my black underneath my wonderful thing. See, I have my black. I don't think you can see it, but I do have my pearls and I have my black underneath, but I have a little bit of orange for orange wall. So this is what I want to share with our listeners and our viewers. I stand as a great example of how it is possible to use this system that we're talking about, our online application, through the marketplace, through jumpstarteconomy.us, and apply for PPP.
Mm-hmm.
I did it last night. I wanted to have the experience.
Right.
I have a very small business that had very, very minor revenue, so I can't say that my loan is going to be anything substantial. But let me say this. I wanted to have the experience so that I could share with our listeners and our audiences today exactly why it's important to do it. So I've been talking on the phone, been talking through social media, really trying to help those small businesses in the last 24 hours to go on and actually apply. And it's really not that difficult whatsoever.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick process. I did it.
It's a very intuitive. I think, Carol, I'm going to use your word. We were talking about it yesterday, that to go into the application process, they have created a yes, no upload scenario, fill in the blank text scenario that is really very simplified. You do need your proof of receipt. So a bank statement, invoice at some point in the process. You do need your financials at some point in the process, simplified. You do need your Schedule C, your tax return, or other documentation that you have submitted to the United States government to demonstrate. But what's really great, as you mentioned, Terry, is that using the gross income enables you to receive more. Now, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to calculate this? Our platform, you don't have to think. It's going to, you put that figure in, and before you know it, it calculates your percentage of how the loan and what you're qualified, the top number. So don't be upset like I was. I shared with Carolyn, I said, I have, it's a catch-22. It would be nice to have more, but it's realistic to the gross revenue of that particular business that just had to go into a hiatus. And it's the reality of where we are with COVID-19. But the positive upside is within an hour, I had completed. And only it took me an hour simply because I'm going to the files, pulling out the document, scanning it, putting it, bringing it back. So this is a critical topic. It's an amazing tool and application through jumpstarteconomy.us, which is a way to not only learn about it, access it, but to learn also about our programming and what else Jumpstart Economy is doing. And what I loved about the app is that it had an opportunity for you to visit if you had a question, the little icon with the question mark or explanation or something, you can pull up along the way and sit and read and understand and learn. So I'm not saying you don't need an expert, because we have great experts that are coming on throughout this entire 3-hour all 3 segments, because there's some critical things that you need to know in preparation. And then things that you need to understand as you move to a sustainability. Oh, speaking of which, here is our expert now for the first segment.
So before, let me just say a million thank you to Carolyn for that, because believe it or not, that was not even script. Because her testimonial, it's one thing to talk about something, but then to actually have to experience it is a whole nother matter. And that was not planned. She actually went through the process so she can see for herself, what that experience was. And for her to be able to share that with our viewers and our listening public is just tremendous. Thank you so much for that, Carol.
That was Linda. That was Linda.
That was me, my little teeny tiny boutique business over here.
Hi, Margaret. So Margaret has joined us. Can we hear you, Margaret? You can hear us now?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry, StreamYard didn't want me to join you all, but I am here and I'm ready.
So this is Margarita Chang, and for the ease of conversation, we will call her Rita. But I also see that we have Gwinnett on here that
Yes.
we haven't properly introduced yet.
Yes. Yeah. So we're going.
You didn't want me either, but perseverance.
That's what we're talking
That's
about.
what it is.
That
Yes.
word.
It's been a technology thing this morning. I don't know what's going on, but we're on now, and that's all that matters, right? We're gonna really dig in and give some nuggets and some tools and tips to individuals that are looking to apply for the PPP. And also, hopefully, those that are not as familiar, they'll get more information and be able to come onto our platform. And as Linda say, it's an easy process. I went through it last night as well. I'll just say for businesses, get your financial papers. If you have a 941 or a 940, have that, because that'll outline how many employees you have, right? Your quarterlies, and then your business Schedule C, have your tax Schedule C in front of you. As Linda said, she uploaded it. She scanned it in. She uploaded it. It was an easy process. But Rita is going to she's going to get a little more into it, because she's been actually helping small businesses get the payroll protection, the paycheck protection program, get through on it. And then Gwinnett, we're going to have you come in and talk a little bit about your experience, and then we'll get into answering questions and talking about some of the barriers, but more importantly, talking about the Jumpstart platform that businesses will be able to come on, and as Linda did and as I did yesterday, be easy to put your information in, yes and no, and then move forward and see what your numbers add up to be. And it doesn't take a calculator. Our platform is actually calculating it for you, and so that's also a very good thing. So I'm going to first start with Gwinnett, and then Rita is going to go a little more in detail about about PPP. Gwinnett?
Well, thanks for having me again. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been approached by so many people in the community that I feel like I am a semi-expert, and I'm one of those worst kind of experts where I have limited information, but everybody's coming to me as though I'm an expert. So I'm happy to have this panel and Jumpstart and everything to share with them, because we really need to get real and true information out. For me, luckily, our business had, we had an accountant. We still didn't do everything right, even though we had an accountant, because we hadn't paid ourselves properly and all of that stuff. That coming out of this process, we have learned about how much better we should be structuring our businesses. So I had actually applied previously. Again, it really is not hard. It is about having your ducks in a row. It's about having your accountant have everything prepared for you, or even if you're using H&R Block, something as simple as H&R Block, and your employees are 1099. It's about having that streamlined and then being able to upload the information. And so what I found in the process was it was easier to work with a smaller bank. I found when we really tried to deal with Wells Fargo or any of the larger banks that we had accounts with, we were dismissed. Wow. And so it's a lot. What Anthony is proposing, what we're working on here, is desperately needed, because smaller people are being dismissed. Because I have a very vibrant business, but I'm still a small business, and I was completely dismissed. As president of a chamber and everything, but again, still dismissed. So the value of this money getting to the small businesses, which are my size and smaller, we really are the lifeblood, and a lot of them are suffering out there. So I'm happy to be able to pass on a proper platform that works for small businesses.
Wonderful.
And that's really good, because that was the intention from Congress in the beginning for the economic aid funding, to support the hardest hit businesses, which were the small businesses, the underserved segments of our community, including women, like our businesses, minorities, and veterans. And so the economic aid is forgivable. It's a forgivable loan provided through the participating lender to cover up to 60%. So it's a minimum of 60% of that will be forgiven. But again, that's about getting all of your, as Gwinnett said, ducks in order, making sure that you're keeping your payroll properly, your payment properly. What I would recommend, and I recommend that to my clients, is to get a payroll system in place. So whether that's ADP or Paychex or any of the other super ones that's out there, it makes your accounting a little easier. So when you're looking for forgiveness, you can just pull up that platform and just submit it to your bank. And so I encourage that. 40% of the other covered eligible expanded over this particular section. So rent, payroll costs, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, operation expenditures, property damage costs. You know, we had a lot of businesses that were hit with some activities that were going on around their business. There were some riots, there was some destruction of businesses, and so property damage costs, supplier costs, and those are all things now that can be a part of eligible expenses. And so that's really important for our small businesses to know. And so, Rita, we're going to have you jump in now and talk to us a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing around this. And you've been doing a lot with women-owned businesses, small businesses. So we're going to have you come in and talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing. And we can talk about some of the best practices that you've seen so far as well.
And actually, Terry, in our is it okay if I just give a little bit of background on Rita? She's actually a certified financial planner professional and a chartered retired planning counselor. She's a member of the CNBC Financial Advisor Council and a regular columnist for Kiplinger, U.S. News and World Report, and a past spokesperson for the AARP Financial Freedom Campaign. In addition to that, she serves as a women's initiative advocate and a member of the Diversity Advisory Board for the CFP board. So we're really pleased to have you here, Rita. And our discussion, we had kind of looked through some questions we wanted to ask her, but I think responding to Terry and a member of it.
I apologize.
Okay. Nice to hear myself again.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I just wanted to say and affirm what Terry said, that 40%, so 60% has to be for payroll. Within that 40%, you may have had to purchase PPE for your staff and your employees. You may have to install barriers. These expenses also would be part of that 40% and would be forgiven because you needed these businesses to be able to, you needed to implement these strategies to be able to be compliant and stay in business. So I'm going to start out by saying there's fact versus fiction. And in the beginning, a lot of people didn't think that they were eligible to apply for PPP, or maybe they thought it was too much work. I mean, it is work. I don't want to misrepresent, but this is very important. In preparing for this with Carolyn and Linda, I told them that I'd make sure that I address this up front. Why now? How is this different from before? So there have been some changes because in the past, smaller businesses may have felt overlooked. They might have been overwhelmed with the process because they're just trying to keep the lights on. So with that in mind, here are some of the key changes, and we're going to go over what you need, but here are some of the key changes and how they benefit our viewers and listeners. So first and foremost, in the past, it was a little bit challenging for people who had less than perfect records, meaning now there are less restrictions on formerly incarcerated small business owners. That's very relevant because in the past, they were not eligible to participate. Another reason why I want you to take advantage of this is there's more access for immigrant business owners. They are the lifeblood of our communities. Immigrants don't just have the businesses in our communities, but they also have some very viable high-tech companies. So this includes not only high-tech companies, but businesses such as gas stations, dry cleaners, hair salons, nail salons, and grocery. The third reason is in the past, if your student loans were in deferment, you may not have been eligible. Now that's not the case. And then this is actually one of my favorite reasons, and it is our time is now, is for people who are self-employed or solopreneurs. They are now eligible. And we're going to talk about the specific details. But last but not least, for women and Black-owned, Afro-Caribbean-owned businesses, I don't know if you know this statistic, 97.5% one of these businesses don't have employee payroll, but they would now still be eligible. And the Biden administration is very clear that the name does say Paycheck Protection Program, but we want you to think of this as what you can do to protect your business. Even if you're not having, I'm going to put air quotes, payroll, this is designed to help you stay in business. So for those 5 reasons, that's why this is your time. And we're going to field your questions and make sure that you have what you need.
So Rita, let me ask you this. Is this available for new businesses? That's one of the things that people want to know. Some people have popped up with a business because COVID made them pivot. Is this available for new businesses?
So you would have had to have started your business before February 15th, 2020. Now, if you were in business before then and you added another business, you would be eligible. But if, for example, you experienced job loss and you started a business March 1st, you wouldn't be eligible for PPP for that business. There might be other resources available for you.
Okay.
So we just clarify, because that's a very good distinction. If you had a business prior to February 2020 and you started another business, like a subsidiary, are you referring to a subsidiary or something that's attached to that business? Your second business is also eligible for PPP?
Well, so you have to be using the same EIN number, right?
Very good.
A DBA.
Yes, doing business
I did a DBA. Okay.
Absolutely. And I can clarify. So let's say you had a restaurant, right? And you had to be closed, but your clientele likes your food and they want to support you. And so you're doing meal kits. That might not have been something you've done in the past, but you're still doing business under that EIN. So even though you've pivoted, you've branched out, you would still be eligible because you've been doing business under that EIN, even though that's a new service.
Excellent.
So using that employee identification number. Well, that's good information to absolutely know. That we had to be in business.
Oops, sorry, that's me. That was a hot tip. I'm telling you right now, what you just said sparked some conversation. So,
okay, well, that's always good to know. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Rita. This is a question that I think a lot of people are going to have, because right now we're trying to get to the segment of the population that maybe didn't apply last year. But if I did apply if I applied for the first time PPP came around, can I apply a second time?
You absolutely can. You must attest that you used those funds.
Yes.
And you also must attest that you need to apply for this next round so that you can stay in business. So if you applied before and you took the money, you definitely can apply again. The other question that comes up is, do I have to go with the same bank? No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Great. What were you saying, Terry?
Yeah, so I was going to talk about some more about the eligibility requirements for the second round. So most borrowers with a maximum loan amount with the PPP loan, 2.5 average 2019-2020 payroll costs, and those borrowers in the accommodation. So we're talking about the NAICS code. So food services, NAICS code 72, the restaurants, they'll get more money. So they'll be able, instead of the 2.5 formula that was used the first time around, they'll be able to use the 3.5 formula, and we'll go a little more into that. And the loan applicants, the application process, like we said, is much easier on our platform that we're using now. So if you previously received the first draw, you are able to do the second draw. You still have to have your financials in order. You have to have no more than 300 employees, and you can demonstrate at least 25% reduction in the gross receipts between the comparable quarters of 2019 and 2020. And those are important distinctions for the second round. And I also want to go back to that first round for individuals that are able to apply for that. I think something that's important, housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, 501c3s, organizations such as the Chambers of Commerce, or eligible news organizations are able to apply for that first round. And maybe the first time around they thought they weren't eligible. Well, they are eligible. And we talked about the covered expenses. So certain borrowers may request an increase to their original PPP loan amount. And so some people saw that the first, when they were getting ready to apply, they saw that they were using the net. With these new rules, you can now, again, use the gross income. And so it's something that's really important. And you have to apply before March 31st. And
Right.
I think that's important. Yeah, I think that's important to let everyone know that they have to apply before the March 31st.
And I think it's important to kind of, that was, you did a wonderful summation, a lot of information so that people can kind of think through what's their first step, second, third, and fourth, kind of exactly. First of all, we know there's a deadline. So you mentioned that. So Rita, could you speak to some of that 1, 2, 3 steps still for those who are just simply, trying to absorb a lot of information, need kind of the elementary rules, if you will. One of which I want to make sure that we talk about when we talk about eligibility is the nonprofit community.
That's right.
Would that also include churches with tithes and offerings and other fee-for-service programs? Are they included as well?
Yes, places of worship are included in nonprofit community-based organization. You think about it, they've been hit hard at a time when demand is great and maybe they don't have as many volunteers or many resources. So yes, they would be eligible. I will definitely break it down. Carolyn and Linda made me, not made me, but they encouraged me. They're like, make sure that you remind everybody, today's the 10th. And the deadline is March 31st. So that's 3 weeks. That's 21 days. And I know you all are busy, but what I want to remind you is that this process may seem overwhelming, but the tool, the portal is very intuitive. And if you don't have a large block of time where you are not able to do everything in one sitting, that is okay. You can save where you are and then upload your documents earlier. So I would say the first step, it just so happens to be tax season, as you're probably getting this information together. So in my mind, step one, this is what I tell clients when they're doing taxes. No pun intended. I know taxes can be taxing. The hardest part is really getting the information together.
Yes.
So the first thing that I would tell you to do is get your information together. And well, Rita, what is that? So we're going to start with what everybody needs. So the first thing that you would need to provide, regardless of your business status, is you need to upload a copy of your driver's license, and you need to upload a copy of your of a voided check, and you need to upload a copy of your February 2020 statement. Everybody is going to need all those 3 things. So those 3 things, I love the number 3. Now, if you're a solopreneur, you're going to need your Schedule C. Okay. If you are a corporation, remember I told you needed all those 3 things. You're going to need proof of payroll, and that's your 940. And you'll also need the 1120. If you're a partnership, remember you need those 3 things. You'll still need the 940, but in this case, you'll need the 1065 and the K1. So you can see today, if the only thing you do is scan your paperwork and have it ready to go, you're already making progress. And then for your second draw requirements, if you are requesting more than $150,000, you must provide proof of that 25% loss. But if you loan, and the system will kind of guide you as to what your request would be, if your requested loan amount is less than 150, you don't necessarily have to provide as much documentation. You need to still answer a few questions, but it's not as much documentation because you're not requesting as much money.
Good information.
I
will
want
say
to
this,
just
I'm sorry, go ahead, Gwinnett.
Sorry, I was trying to ask earlier, but my mic was muted. So every time I'd be like, why am I? But Margarita, I actually wanted you to break down a little bit for me about the solopreneurs, because I come up against a lot of those people in my community. They may be promoters, they may be DJs, they may be hairdressers, and just did not understand, or massage therapists didn't understand that they really can qualify could you please break down who a solopreneur is so that somebody listening will get an understanding that applies to them?
Sure. So a solopreneur is basically someone who may be considered a freelancer, an independent contractor. Today, some people say gig economy, digital nomad. Solopreneur is an entrepreneur that does not employ any employees. Maybe this solopreneur hires someone to help with their website. So a solopreneur without any W-2 employees, yes, I want you to take advantage of these programs. I do. And you will need your driver's license, a copy of your void check, your bank statement, and your Schedule C. Now, if you have not completed your 2020 taxes, you can turn in the Schedule C from 2019. But if you have time, I'd encourage you to do your taxes so that you have the Schedule C for 2020, because it could be a situation where doing 2020, if you experienced, if this was a very difficult, if 2020 was a difficult year, you may be eligible for more. You would be permitted to submit the Schedule C for 2019. But if 2020 was very difficult, particularly personal services, massage therapist, hair, nails, DJ, like people aren't really having events. So those three base things, the driver's license, the void check, bank statements, and then your Schedule C from either 2019 or 2020.
Awesome.
And may I ask a question related to that Schedule C?
Yes.
Between 2019 and 2020, can you share with our listeners and viewers that what happens if one demonstrates more gross income over the other? So you have, let's say 2019 had more gross income versus 2020. Which one of those returns, tax returns, would be more ideal to submit?
So sure. You can, as mentioned, you can submit either 2019 or 2020. But if your goal is to be able to because it's been difficult and you've been shut down, you would probably want to submit the one. So if you have done both years, submit the one where, the income is lower. That is not being deceptive. That's reality, right? That's reality. And someone asked me this, well, what if I get the loan? How does forgiveness work? So I think I'm always very mindful. I like to break down the decisions for people. The first thing that we need to do is make sure that we get you, this is what Carolyn says, camera ready. We need to get you PPP ready. We need to help you present your portfolio in the best light. Then when you get a decision from the bank and you have the funds, you want to make sure you segregate them. But to answer your question, I would say if your goal is to see how you can take advantage of this program because you are eligible, then it would probably be in your best interest. You can run both if you have both, and then the income is lower so that you'd be able to qualify for more.
And so that leads me to this final question so that the panel can chime in with their questions. And that is, if in 2020 you had zero, then that's the lowest of the two. I'm not sure you would still qualify, or would you? If you had zero income, but you still had your business up and running, it's just really hit just that hard that there was no income to really show. You just had expenses because you may have been pulling from savings, or you may have been pulling from past revenue, but stored revenue, but you actually do not have a gross income. You did not have any new revenue in 2020. What would you advise to those practitioners?
So yes, I would advise them to definitely start the application process and go through it. Who would not be eligible? This came up. If I declared bankruptcy, it was a horrible year, I decided to declare bankruptcy, would I be eligible? And the answer is no. But if you had no income because you had to pull from savings or friends and family, you can still submit an application provided you are still in business.
Great, thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Margarita, your 2019 taxes would show where you stood prior, right? What you made prior, so that even if 2020 is showing zero, your 2019 taxes would that count, or would you have to show it at some point to show that you did make money in 2019?
So I knew you guys are going to ask this question. And what I did is I made sure I printed out the Schedule C for tax year 2020. Kind of looks similar to 2019. So to answer your question, on the Schedule C, line 7 is your gross income, right? And then line 31 is your net profit or loss. So in 2019, before the pandemic, you may have had gross income and then a net profit. In 2020, because you had to shut down and you needed time to pivot and figure everything out, you may not have had any gross income, right? You might have just had or very little gross income. And then by the time you add up your expenses, line 28, and you grow to 31, your net profit may be a loss for 2021. This is why some of the language, and I think why some solopreneurs, were a little bit loath to go through this, to think, why should I go through all this work only to be rejected? My time is better spent just trying to stay afloat. But I would say, because the process has been streamlined, you still have to be compliant, because remember, this is money from the government. But just because the process has been more streamlined, I would definitely, encourage you to apply. All the solopreneurs, massage therapists, DJs, everybody, all of y'all out there.
Awesome.
So I made sure I printed this off so that I could.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Great. And I will tell you, when Rita and Linda and I were talking yesterday, when the portal for jumpstarteconomy.us opened up on Monday, I went in to apply because I wanted to know what it looked like. And though there is a pre-qualifier there. So as you're going through, it's going to ask you, as Linda mentioned earlier, the yes, no, and then it says, hey, you qualify. So you're going to know right away whether it's going to be worth doing the other things that go with it. The other thing I wanted to do is to stop the process, because I didn't have everything ready. But I wanted to know, how will this jumpstarteconomy.us or the Paycheck Protection Plan that we're using through SETI, how is this going to work? And I am pleased to say that within an hour of signing out, it said, I got an email from Smart Biz that said, hey, Carolyn, don't forget this on the payroll protection program. And then I got a reminder yesterday, and then I got another reminder today. So for anybody that has a tendency to walk away from something and think they're going to forget it, the beauty is, use this portal. First of all, the bank that is doing the funding for this, through the SBA, is amazing. I think Anthony mentioned it's the 5th largest lender for PPP. So it's wonderful, credible bank. So this is not a sham and this is not a scam, but it's going to continue to remind you to go back in and fill your paperwork out. So get started today. If this is your goal, to make a difference and this information is helping you, I ask all the listeners and the viewers to go into that portal and just start. You're going to find out whether you qualify or don't, and then it's going to be ready for you. I'm going to keep reminding you. It's going to stay on your back to get your paperwork in.
And Carolyn,
Terry,
you just said,
Terry, if I can, just real quickly, just a reminder, and I want to sort of piggyback off of Carolyn, that from a housekeeping standpoint, when you do go to our website, and that's www.jumpstarteconomy.us, you will have different ways you can get to how you can apply. The landing page or homepage basically gives you that quick access to do that. But there's some other places you can go as well to apply. Now, specifically, we're not going to get into the U.S. territories, because usually, if you're familiar with how the system works, unfortunately, a lot of times the territories get treated a little different than the U.S. mainland state citizens and businesses. And so, with that in mind, we designed the program to be able to tailor and customize the experience for whether you're a territory or a state. And so when you go to www.jumpstarteconomy.us, The first portal, as Carolyn said, it's designed. It is seamless. It is easy. The process it's intuitive. It walks you through it, and because it's automated, it works around you. It works according to your pace and your comfort, and so you get to control the process. Not saying the human experience is not important. It is important, but you have the ability at your leisure, convenience, to be able to start the process you're most comfortable, and you're able to do that. And finally, also, if you have a question for today's panel, our co-hosts and guests, please submit your questions on social media. Okay, if you have a comment or question, we would welcome that, and so we will share that with our audience, with our panelists as well. So if you have any questions or comment, please, on social media, just enter your comment and questions in the window, and we will share it and discuss it as well. Thank you.
Excellent.
So I wanted to follow up on something Carolyn ended on, and that was, this is not a sham or some kind of hoax. Can you talk a little bit about, Rita, something we touched on yesterday in our conversation around the industry of those who can support or help or guarantee loans, PPP loans, things that consumers should be looking out for to make sure they're working with qualified professionals such as yourself and lending institutions?
Sure. No, I love the question. And actually, before I tuned in with y'all today, I got a call from the Social Security Administration, and I'm like laughing because the Social Security Administration and the SBA and the IRS, for that matter, they do not make outbound calls. So here is my advice. It is important to go to the SBA website and make sure that whatever lender you use is, an SBA lender, right? I'd say there. Second, recognize that nobody from the SBA is going to charge you a fee for underwriting or application. You don't need to have, what makes these loans so special is you don't need to have a personal guarantee or collateral. So those are all talking points. So if someone is calling you and telling you, hey, you can apply and there's a fee involved. Now, I'm not saying you should not pay for someone's time, a tax advisor, an accountant, a business advisor to help you with that. But what I mean is the institution should not be charging for that. Mm-hmm. And then be leery of emails. This is what we call phishing, PHISHING, that look kind of confusing or questionable with attachments. Don't respond to those. The SBA website has a lot of resources. I know they're very busy, but it's a good starting point so that you can learn about the process and what to expect. And then if you do have people in your community, of course, we encourage you to visit jumpstarteconomy.us. But if you do have people in your community who have been successful, you can share. You don't have to tell people how much you applied for all that, but you can share the process because we all want to support one another so that we can have thriving businesses.
Outstanding.
I wanted to interject as well. Thank you for elaborating on the expansion of the nonprofit initiative that was extended to or nonprofits. This has been for the previous distribution or opportunity for the funding. This was a group that was just really challenged. The 501c3s through the 19s, the qualifications for those, the 4s, the 6s, the 19s. I'm really happy that you touched on this, where folks now know that there is an eligibility where they can in fact apply for these fundings. The smaller nonprofits, specifically.
That's good.
Absolutely. And I'll just say what they need to apply. So because Dr. Karen Green brought this up. So yes, nonprofits would be eligible. So again, they would need the three things, meaning the driver's license, the void check, and the bank statement. But for nonprofits, there's two other things you'll need. The first you'll need is the 940. That is the list of your employees. The other thing is part 9 of your 990. So if you're a community-based nonprofit, this is definitely an opportunity for you to be able to apply for funds and be able to keep yourself in business so that you can continue to be here. Nonprofits are valuable for our community, and we don't want to have them go out of business.
Absolutely.
I think it's really important. And thank you so much, Rita. You're sharing so many nuggets today. This is awesome, awesome, awesome. I just wanted to just reiterate the newly eligible. Housing cooperatives are eligible. Destination marketing organizations are eligible. Certain 501c6 organizations, such as chambers of commerce, they're also eligible. And like Rita and the group have been talking, the still eligible are the solopreneurs, the independent contractors, the self-employed individuals, business entities, partnerships, corporations, LLCs, 501c3s, nonprofit organizations, 501c19 veteran organizations, as well as tribal businesses. They are all eligible for the PPP loan. I think it's also important for us to talk a little bit about the maturity. So there is the loan is not 100% forgiven. We talked about that. There's a fixed interest rate of 1% that is non-compounding and non-adjustable. So it's really important. We want to get the money on the street. We want to make sure the businesses are taking advantage of it, and want to make sure that they understand that there's a fixed rate. There's no requirement for collateral or personal guarantees. There's no fees or repayment penalties. It's a 5-year maturity. Payments start once borrower knows how much the PPP loan will be forgiven. Lender will notify the borrower. If the borrowers do not apply for forgiveness, the payment starts 10 months after the last day of the covered period. I think it's really important for us to emphasize the interest rate, the loan amounts, the fact that there's no penalties. We want to get the money out there. We want to make sure that they're newly eligible, that they understand that they can apply for the loans. And then Rita gave you the 3 things that you'll need for every loan, and then she's adding on the other nuggets. So thank you so much for adding that. And I just wanted to make everyone understand too that the idle advances are no longer deducted from the PPP loan forgiveness payment. I think that's also really important for us to understand.
Can you repeat that, Terry? Can you repeat that?
The idle advances, remember there was an idle grant advance up to $10,000. They're no longer deducted from the PPP loan.
And can you, for our listeners who may not know what that acronym stands for,
that's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
Okay.
And I just wanted to just put this out there, Margarita. A lot of people might have multiple businesses with separate EIN numbers, but I found that people are hesitant and only apply for one. Should we not remind them, if you have viable businesses, different businesses, just go ahead and apply for the different businesses?
So I do encourage them to apply, and I'm sure this question is coming, what about loan forgiveness? And there's things that you want to do to make sure that you position yourself to your lenders so that you'd be eligible for loan forgiveness. So for people who have multiple businesses, I'm not here to say they're going to be forgiven or not forgiven, but here is actually what can trip people up. You get your PPP money, right? And you're not allowed. So if I use this PPP money to build an amazing website to help people have mobile orders, and I buy all these tents for people to eat outside, I'm allowed to do that because that's what I need to stay in business. However, what could preclude me from having loan forgiveness is taking that PPP money that I used to spend. You can't double dip and use those expenses as a tax deductible expense. So that could trip people up.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have tax deductible expenses, absolutely, but you want to make sure, this is particularly relevant for people who do have multiple businesses, that you don't double the dip. You can't spend that money and say, oh, you know what? I spent 10 grand on heating and temporary shelters. Okay, that's the business expense. No, that was your PPP expense. So it's just, I know it seems tedious, but it's really good, just whatever system you have to make sure that, you know, right now it seems straightforward month one, but, you know, 4 months later, what did I spend that money on? Where was that? And so that's something that can actually trip people up.
So
That
are you
isn't.
suggesting that we don't commingle funds? So if I were to get, say I got $25,000 and I have definite business expenses around my business that was impacted by COVID, what should I do with those funds to make sure I'm not going to be caught in a situation where I get confused? What would you recommend?
So yes, no commingling. I like to add some wholesome humor. I like chai very much, and I like matcha green tea very much. I just don't like them together. No commingling. So to Carolyn's point, sometimes people think, oh my God, I got this money. I have to spend it. Yes, you do need to spend it to keep your business in business, but you don't have to spend it all at once. So what I tell people is talk to your bank. If you don't love your bank, that's fine too. You can go online and open an online savings account and put that money there. And then if you like spreadsheets, use a spreadsheet. If that's not your thing and that's too much work, you'll be able to track the activity. So it's important that you know the dates. When did I apply? When was the money dispersed? Because those dates are going to be different. You might have applied for your loan. Today's March 10th, right? You might have applied for your loan March 10th. And it takes about 10 business days. And your loan proceeds may not be dispersed until the 20th. That is when the clock starts ticking. And the first month, you can see it's only to the 20th, to the 31st. You might not have done anything with it. But then it might start to get busy. So you want to make sure that you keep that money separate and distinct from your other operating funds.
And that's a very
All
good
right.
point. Good question. Let me just make sure we clarify.
Linda, 1 second, because we have 3 segments, and so we're over the time for the first segment.
We're
we
already?
We have to transition we have to transition to the second studio because there are folks in the second studio as well. So let me close out the first segment, and then what we will do, we'll then transition into the second segment. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in to the Jumpstart PPP Forum. This is the Marketplace Reset, and we are going to catch you on the second segment. We'll be right back.
All right.
Outstanding.
All right, ladies.